Late in 1975, I began to convince my parents that constructing a recording studio in the basement of our home was a good idea.
I don't remember how you got mom and dad to allow you to get, what, at least 25%, if not more, of the basement for your studio, but you were really good at that. You know, you were able to always get mom and dad to, you know, see the Al side of things, you know.
Al wanted the big guitar, a big cellar space. So he asked me one day, Dad, could I have half of the cellar, at least, downstairs? Because on the opposite side, we had like a family bar. So I said, okay, Al. And I pointed to Al these poles that were in the cellar. You take the right-hand side, and I'll still have a portion left of the bar. And then the construction start. And the construction was fabulous. I was more fabulous watching the outcome, how they built their walls. Eggshed from Egg, what they call them, baffles. They use them styrofoam, and must have been about 12 to 14 inches thick. So when they played the music, if it was 4 guys or 5 guys, and I was in the opposite side, I couldn't hear nothing, just having a regular radio play, but never open the door, because you would get a backlash of the appreciation is in there along the line.
Having a convenient place to create whenever the mood would strike was now within reach.
I mean, first of all, props to your parents, because I'll tell you what, I love music so much, and like you're just asking me and stuff like that, and my son actually plays the bass, and Jacqueline actually plays the keyboards very well. And your parents put up with us every freaking night of the week, man. And I remember your dad, was your dad used to get migraines sometimes, right? I gotta tell you, man, I get home, I get pretty tired, and as much as I like music, I think if Andrew had his band downstairs, I might tell him to get the fuck out. No, I mean, I might.
Jim Brosnahan was working as an electronic project engineer, and he designed and hardwired the control room and had the patience to explain to me the reasons why recording standards were important. Without his guidance, this whole studio thing would have turned into one very expensive failure.
But then I remember you were doing the renovations in the room there. You kind of blocked it off, and at the time I walked in, it was kind of a place to sort of every Tuesday night or something like that, or Thursday night. You know, at the time I think I was living over in River Edge. I had to drive over to Al's house in Saddlebrook and hang out all night, and we would, at the time you were working on the studio, you know, putting it together. You had the walls up, you had the framing up. But before you finished the frame or put the wallboard up, I was like, well, why don't you, you know, put the wiring inside the wall, and that way you won't have to be stepping all over it. And you bought onto that idea, you liked it, and I had a whole big spool of twisted pair wire with shield on it, just the right stuff for you know, low impedance microphones and things like that. So
Jack DeCristofaro and Fred Tapp helped almost daily for over a year.
Oh, Jack was a terrific guy, terrific friend, and I guess he took a liking to me in a little bit for like modeling, and so he asked me to go to his studio and do some pictures and things like that. And yeah, he was a good guy to help. He really did a lot of help for us, just trying to promote us a little bit more. And it was a good time.
It was something cool to do, and it was always something to look forward to completing. I was buying multi-track tape recorders and reverbs, equalizers, and the rest of the hardware needed to get a home studio off the ground. My dad's handyman skills helped me construct the insulated walls, the door frames, and running the cables. I was nearly 20, and working with my dad on a project like this brought us to a new level.
Well, I think when Dad, when Dad was first approached to transform the basement, And you know, people who don't have a basement don't understand the cellar. You just don't understand the basement. And Dad was in his element. You know, as much as Dad, you know, I think he really did enjoy music. I think he was like most people, didn't understand rock and roll. But he did enjoy the music. But Dad couldn't play an instrument. And I mean, maybe he could, but in his day, you know, there wasn't any money for him to have an instrument. So maybe again, that was some sort of talent gone by. But when you approached him to transform the basement into a recording studio with the eggshell, the egg carton things on the wall and on the ceiling, and then Daddy was in his element. You know, it's like a reaching out to people. He couldn't, even if he wanted to be a part of the rock and roll scene, he couldn't. That's not happening. You know, it was way past his capacity, way past his time, you know. But to help transfer, to help build something, to put a hammer in a nail, to put a screw, to do something, that was Daddy's element.
I loved it. He loved it too. We made 2 double glass windows for the control room to help insulate the sound. Someone had told me that square egg cartons were a good cheap material to shield the sound from the remaining house, or to isolate their sounds from us. I had access to a caterer, and I soon had all the 12 by 12 square egg carton holders I would ever need. However, looking through these pointy rows in a 10 by 12 foot room began to give me severe headaches, and we had to take them all down and start all over with another layer of acoustic tiles.
I like the recording studio, the way it evolved from egg cartons on the wall, because I don't know who came up with this idea that if you put egg cartons all over the wall, it made it sound good. But we tried it, and instead of making it sound good, I think it just made it smell bad. The recording studio was a lot of fun, though. I mean, it was a little hideaway. Yeah.
Sometimes I learn everything the hard way, and only after I do it wrong twice. Now I was attempting to teach myself multi-track recording. How long was that gonna take? I began to learn the recording process by taping friends who wrote songs or from those who helped me build the studio. Some even paid me money to record their demo tapes. Once I engineered a soundtrack that was added to a slideshow presentation at a corporate food exposition at a major hotel. I think we did this for Universal Foods. Keith Bailey worked in the mailroom of Universal Foods, but was always selling his dream upstairs to the marketing department. Again, Keith would recruit his motley cadre of friends to help out or to yes him to death. This particular project really convinced me I could easily create and direct the ideas a client wanted me to produce for them, and bring it in on time. They too seemed happy to pay me for my work. Around this time, Andy, Sal, and Rich see this as a golden opportunity to further their own musical aspirations by offering to help me record my songs if, in return, I would engineer their projects. The late 70s brought the talent we were cultivating in our hands into a controlled studio environment. This blended creative musical techniques and the physical act of master sound recording and mixing.
And Al had a studio in the basement, rehearsal / recording. Al had his little booth behind the glass, and he had his little reel-to-reels. He also had cassettes. I said cassettes. Behind the glass. The wizard was behind the glass, and we would record almost everything. And it crude in nature, but still to this day, we'll go back and look upon that and say, that was pretty groovy. It was sort of catching time in a bottle.
I feel as though that in my years playing music, even when I started when I was young, that you were the driving force in me wanting to learn how to create, okay? Learn how to write, learn how to interact with other musicians. That all started in your studio, all right? I played when I was young with other bands before I even met Andy. I played with combos when I was between 9 and 13 years old. I played with other musicians. I played with guys that were in studios. But my most influential time in my musical life was coming out of Saddlebrook, out of your studio. Because there was always something that I wanted to do better or different coming out of those sessions that we had down in your studio.
The prospects of fame and acceptance brought us many nights arguing over who had the ear for the right mix. Now, too many directors in one room can easily reach a fingered pitch. But when it's all said and done, hearing our own songs recorded on tape, meticulously tailored, somehow made this worth all the aggravation.
Yours was the first real studio I've ever been. And I was just telling Andy this before. I said it made us write for a reason, because we had a outlet to record it. So we really had a reason to write. And we Hollywood Election Day and this and that, because we knew we could record it. So we're like, let's write. Yeah. And otherwise, if we didn't have that access, I don't know if we would have wrote.
It's time to get some reaction playing them for people. I think this is how we got started gigging at Mace's Place.
Between ourselves and stuff like that. But Mace's Place was cool. Mace's Place was, John was fucking crazy as they come anyway. But anything went, it was a local place where it was small enough to be intimate, but yet it was big enough to be sold out and of beer and cover charge, and we still didn't make any money because Sal fucking Barbell was. You remember that?
And it was out of hand over there too. I mean, it was raucous crowds and shit. We never got any money out of there because our bar bill was fucking more than what we were getting. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That was the Bones Band in a nutshell.
Rich Wojtek was the original drummer from the early 70s until he enrolled in a computer school. Then Dennis Monte played the drums until spring of 1981. Rich Wojtek was a real character, a real smooth talker with the ladies, and his dial was always set to maximum cool. Rich could have been a fantastic frontman, but chose to be stuck behind the drums. But that never stopped him. He had flair, he had flam, and he had a van.
Rich was a great drummer because he was experimental. We used to have these outrageous progressive rock, I guess you would call it now, jams, only 3-piece. And we weren't afraid to go out, and he used to make these outrageous accents, and Andy would pick up on that and stuff. Dennis is the best straight-ahead rock drummer that I've ever played with in my life. Just amazing. Donald Freeman was a very good pop commercial. He knew just what to hit at a certain time and not step on the harmonies and the lead vocals, and he also sang very well, if you recall. And so he was good at that. Drummer, I wouldn't stand him out, but Rich and Dennis definitely the two best drummers I've ever played in my life.
He was a front man stuck behind the drums. Andy, Sal, and Rich played together as a tight unit. They knew what was going to come up next without even looking at one another. They could just feel it between themselves. Now, Rich would run the soundboard for Saddleback, and he even did it with the Bones Band with Dennis behind the kit. But where Rich really shined was with his creativity. With the sticks, he could find a new hook or a complex beat, and Rich Wojtek could take us there easily. In July of 1979, I resigned my printing job at the office to try to start a part-time living with the basement recording studio. This request would naturally be denied by the town's planning board, and this started a 2-year slide to the near bottom. However, the summer of unemployment was a hell of a lot of fun. Keith Bailey and the Universal Food Show parody based on West Side Story was a huge success. Proving a project under my total direction won the respect of peers and strangers alike. I worked with people who were in their early 20s, all trying to find their musical bliss. Like Liz, who needed a demo tape for prospects in Atlantic City casinos. Or the Busy Brothers, a Venezuelan disco duo who were trying to make it with their own new sound. I tell you, that was really a trip.
Oh yeah, I think at that point it's a hip place to be, and everybody's your friend. So yeah, I remember you had many a times bringing my guitar over, and I remember Fred Tapp. Why do I remember him?
Again, I digress to a party at Jim Brosnahan's house in early July. I meet up again with one of those musical guinea pigs from 1977, Jim's friend Chris Hernan.
Well, I met Chris Hernan, I guess, when I was probably in my junior year of high school. Chris, at the time, I lived in Emerson at the time, and Chris was living down right next to the railroad tracks in a second floor apartment. I guess it may have been a beauty shop or something at the time, or a meat store or a meat shop, right next to the railroad tracks. And he would sit outside, and this building was probably built in the late 1800s. But it had this big concrete stoop outside, and he would sit outside and play his guitar. I guess one summer night, walking down there and by where he was living at the time, and he was out there playing. I started talking to him and saying, "Oh yeah, I play guitar also." And he passed it along to me, his guitar, and I started playing a few licks on it, and we just struck up a friendship that probably went on a good. Well, that was probably the mid-70s, or probably went on for a good 10, 12, 15 years. But yeah, he had a temper. He never finished high school. He was Irish, English, and Scotch background. So when he started drinking, he was a hard drinking guy. But he was also a good, sincere guy, and he would kind of do anything for you. He was, he would always stick by you. But yeah, had too much liquor though, his personality would change. But he was very talented. He had a wonderful voice too. And he was very heavily into David Crosby and Graham Nash. Especially David Crosby. He knew the chords for it, he knew the vocal phrasing and so forth.
Chris was a singing guitar player who had an Irish touch for Budweiser and Old Bushmills. That night, I met Kelly Boa, a 19-year-old blonde who was a child who actually sang on The Ed Sullivan Show.
Hi Al, you had mentioned that I sang on The Ed Sullivan Show. I wanted to clear that up just a bit. There is Ed here, and there I am with, I think his name is Mark, Dory Soames, and actually it was a comedy sketch with Wayne and Schuster. So I just want to let you know about that, and I just thought I'd share that with you.
Kelly was a force to be reckoned with. Just her presence on the stage, I think, sold more beer at some of these bars that we played in than anything else.
Well, Saddleback was the very first band that I was ever in, prior to being in show business before that. Oh, it was totally different. It was just really great to work with other people together and in a musical atmosphere. I remember being at the party. I know we met each other there. I just don't recall a lot of what we were singing, but we all seemed to get along great, at least at the time.
Al? I have no idea who he was. He told me I knew him. I don't understand that. He even knew the bike I rode. Who the hell's Al? I don't know.
We spent the entire party playing songs from Linda Ronstadt, Fleetwood Mac, Neil Young, Buddy Holly, the Beatles, and Dan Fogelberg.
Songs they used to sing in Saddleback was, of course, Linda Ronstadt. And you turned me on to a lot of different songs that I hadn't even heard before. But we did a lot of country, and I think we also did some, at the time, I don't know but for sure, but maybe Dolly Parton and I think Olivia Newton-John. I remember Olivia Newton-John's Let Me Be There for some reason. That one brings back memories. Oh, and The Rose. That was a beautiful song. Love is a Rose. That's the name of it.
It was the kind of spark that by the end of the night, we all knew we were a new band. After a while, you can quickly tell who you fit with and who doesn't. It's like finding the right note and trying to hold that note just a little bit longer to catch it before it disappears again into thin air. We rehearsed from July until October, learning songs, experimenting with Paul Morrow on percussion, or Jack on 12-string guitar. Hey Paul, how do you pop up into every part of this movie?
How am I supposed to know? I have no idea.
What seemed to gel most as a band was Chris, Al, and Kelly. It was extremely difficult to explain to two very dear and close friends that the band would be billed only as a trio. Things happen for reasons, and some reactions can be positive. Shortly after, Paul joined the group called Grand Junction, a band that enjoyed a fair amount of local success, while Jack immersed his talent into photography and set up his own darkroom.
Oh, Jack was a terrific guy, terrific friend, and I guess he took a liking to me a little bit for like modeling, and so he asked me to go to his studio and do some pictures and things like that. And yeah, he was a good guy to help. He really did a lot of help for us, just trying to promote us a little bit more. And it was a good time. I wish, I wish that we could have stayed together longer. The sad thing is that Chris just had a paranoia about him, and it just did not work out. And I guess we all had to go our own ways. But I'm so glad to be able to keep in touch with you after all these years.
In the end, Saddleback didn't play many gigs, maybe 8 or 10 times out. Mostly at our home base, the Canine Bar and Grill.
We all wanted to become famous. That was the first thing. That would have been nice. I think I remember when we finally got our first gig at the Canine Bar, that was just exceptional. I mean, we finally got someplace to sing and play, and we had a really good time. I think my aunt and my uncle came, and it was just like a big thing at the time. And I think we ended up, how many times did we play there? I think we played there 3 or 4 times maybe. Actually, Al, I had no idea we made such an impact on the Canine Bar. Because yeah, it was a dump, that's for sure. But we were just starting out and we wanted to play somewhere, and we had a really good time.
In December 1979, a friend told me about this FM radio station that was looking for unsigned bands for original Christmas music. One day while cleaning the studio with Jack, we come across a poem I had written 2 years earlier. Jack said, if you write some music for this, it wouldn't be a half-bad Christmas song. And as with most divine inspirations, the song wrote itself in about 20 minutes. Acting fast on that radio tip, and with the help of the entourage of Jim, Jack, Fred, Kelly, Chris, and myself, we hastily arranged and recorded Holiday Time in one afternoon. The tape was picked for the local Spotlight Hour with Gary Axelbank from 107.1 FM in Briarcliff Manor, New York. We sang it in 3-part harmony. Kelly played the melody on the keyboards, Chris played his guitar with me on the 12-string. Brosnahan was playing the bass. The show aired the Sunday night before Christmas. We all gathered at Jim's apartment in Emerson and had a very wild celebration party. It was a very memorable moment of monumental proportions, because something we had created from the ground up was being selected and broadcast in New York City.
But that was really, really neat to have a song played in New York. Of course, the very first time, too.
Everything seemed to be following an upward path. It was not uncommon for Chris to be fully illuminated at the end of every gig, and that anything could set him off into a cathartic rage.
Oh gosh, yeah, he had definite issues drinking, which was sad. I don't know actually what happened to Chris or anything, but yeah, I kind of felt bad for him. He had family issues and stuff like that too. He was just paranoid, and I know that there was Sal and Andy, and I think that he was thinking that you were going to leave, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, but he just got really paranoid at the end. And it's sad because we broke up. I really enjoyed playing with you guys, and you treated me really well, and it was a team effort, and it was just sad. It was because Chris was having problems, but then we all had to move on, and that's how it goes.
Sometimes if Andy, Sal, and Rich would come down to the Canine to see us play, Chris would pick up on this notion that I was secretly conspiring to play with them instead of him. Chris needed to be constantly cajoled. This really interfered with the progression of the band. And one day he threatened to quit. And I said, sure, quit. You argue like spouses, and sometimes you need a divorce. You need to quit the band. Mysteriously, right after the breakup of Saddleback, the Bones Band was on the road again, this time with Dennis Monte behind the kit. I guess he wasn't as drunk as I thought. There was a turning point for Andy and Sal in Port Jervis, New York one night. The Bones Band was part of the Log Cabin Brain Burner, where 6 or 7 bands would play 40 minutes on and off all night as everyone ate food frontier style and drank beer like fishes. Early that evening, as the alcohol began to sink in, Andy expressed that he wasn't sure that he and Sal would be able to muster the nerve to go on stage and sing. I was really surprised because this wasn't their first time singing in front of people. I recall saying that we drove all the way to Port Jervis with my van filled to the brim with the band's equipment, and if they backed out now, it would be the last time I would ever play with them.
I'll be honest with you, I think you were wise beyond your years. I think you were a great motivator, and you saw in people and you were able to pull out of people, because I remember going up to Glens Bay to play at that was like a festival or something of that sort, where there was tons of bands. Port Jervis. And I remember going up there and we just started singing. Background. Not even lead, background. And I remember the fucking place was jam-packed and there was a lot of bands. And I remember looking at Al and going, I don't know, we're drinking beer, smoking weed all day. I'm not sure about this, going up there and singing thing. And I remember you saying, man, you fucking made me put all this fucking shit in my van and cart it all the way up here. You're gonna go on and you're gonna fucking sing, And I'm glad we did, because it was good.
You had to be on your best. And I tell you what, I could, when I got behind the kit, you know, I always like to look out to the crowd, and I always like to look at us. You know, I could see a lot of nerves there. You know, Andy, I remember that day in particular, looked very, very nervous. And but he came through, man. That's the pros, you know. You could look nervous, you could suck in practice, but when the light goes on and it's time to play, that's the thing there, man. And that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, we just wanted to play.
And to me, as a guitar player, I don't want to sing. I want to play. And when I'm playing, I even told him this, even when we're just jamming now with Dennis and stuff. When I play, I hear so many different fills and stuff going on in my head. My head is on guitar, and the vocals are just like, to me, like, you know, I don't go there to sing. I go there to play guitar.
Well, of course we went on, and we really rocked the crowd as they marveled at Sal's guitar work. You see, once you start to play, you forget about the nerves, and the two of them began to sing like birds. During a rehearsal in 1980 in Scala's basement in Passaic, I went out to catch some air. I pass out cold, fall on my face, and break my jaw in 2 places.
When you broke your jaw, changed the band immensely, because that opened the door for Andy, Sal, and even myself. Me, I always sang, and I did that with everybody else too, you know? So it was no big deal for me, but for them it was, because they never really did, like, out front. And it's so funny because you could probably attest to this, that all of a sudden when somebody's got a mic in front of them, you can't get them away from it after, and then they want to sing everything. And that was the part, Bones Band speaking, that I didn't care for it, because then I always felt that they kind of were, like, you know, pushing you to the side a little bit, you know. I think they took that as a shining moment where, you know, this is our time to shine.
In my 7 weeks of recovery time without being able to sing, our set list began to shed the material that needed my voice. The Neil Young, The Who, and the Beatles stayed behind, and Sal and Andy added more Aerosmith, Outlaws, Cars, and Blackfoot. The PV speaker columns were replaced with Trainer reflex cabinets, along with more and better power. We even acquired stage monitors. This helped to keep our voices after a show.
And like I said, you were there to be the entertainer and to sing, and also you happen to become a very complimentary rhythm player to me, which I never played with a rhythm player before, so you did perfectly.
Sal, Wojtek, and you singing, or Al singing. Now, I'm a little older now, so I'm, you guys were still playing at the house. There's a lot of pot smoking going on. Yeah, a lot of drinking too. Those were sort of the wild times where life gets a little foggy during this time. But Sal was like a real quiet guy. I don't really remember Sal talking a whole lot. And again, Andy wasn't a big talker either, you know, and I think maybe you, in that sense, were also the voice of them, because they really weren't. They were musicians that just wanted to get on playing their guitars, and again, I think that was how they were, they just expressed themselves. That was their vocal stuff, and you just came in, I think, and I don't know, like, livened it up or put the words to it.
We practically became the house band at Mace's place. And when we played there, the bar was likely to sell out of beer or come damn close to it. We would walk into the bar and it looked like the cover of a Doors album. The Bones Band was in the house. We did our rightly share of all the things your mother warned you not to do. We drank, we rolled, and when it snowed, we stayed out very, very late. We were just a great rockin' corner bar band.
Somebody do me a favor and get me a Jack and a 7. Jack Daniels and 7 Up. I got it.
Thanks a lot.
In January of 1980, we were working on our own songs in the basement in Saddlebrook, where we took a coffee break at the corner 7-Eleven, and I bumped into an old friend of mine, Johnny Stevens. John asked me what we had going on, and I tell him about the new recording project. John tells me that he writes and produces a comedy variety show on public access television called the Downtown Altoona Players.
Boy, you know, Al and I have talked from time to time about, what he sometimes calls these twist of fate moments. And, boy, fate's twisted all of us up a little bit too much, I think, through the years at times. Sometimes in a good way. Sometimes life smacks you around a little bit. But one of the good ways in which fate twisted was running into Al in 1980 at a 7-Eleven. And I hadn't seen Al for quite some time. As a matter of fact, Al and I, at least from my perspective, I knew who Al was. I had gone to school with his sister for years, and but we had never really hung out a whole lot as friends, as buddies, and that was about to change a lot. But I knew Al from around town, from around Saddlebrook, and I knew him as, one of the guys with guitars. And I talked to a cousin of mine about this too. Guys with guitars is what I call them. And I asked my cousin, now that I'm a lot older, whatever happened to all the guys with guitars? In other words, now I'm going to sound like an old curmudgeon, but the music scene today, everything is produced. And I'm not saying these people are without talent. Certainly, they're very talented people. But when I was growing up, everybody was in a garage band, in a basement band. And you could apply that to any of the great bands of all time. There was a point where the Rolling Stones were getting themselves together and they were working out, I'm sure, in the equivalent of garages or basements, the Ramones, any band you want to name. Now I look at artists today, well, I don't know where the music comes from. There's no clear person on guitar and bass and drums, and it's a produced choreography type of act. And again, very talented people, but something different. I never thought guys with guitars would go away. Well, Al was a guy with a guitar, and he always could sing, and I was always impressed by that. And we were just getting the sort of concept of the Downtown Altoona Players together, and I knew that he must be in a band right now, and sure enough, the Bones Band. And so we were just talking at the 7-Eleven, and I invited Al to, please let's hang out, let's get together, let's get some music down, and you guys come in and be a guest on this cable access show we're trying to put together here, and that's what happened. So we were all thrilled to have the Bones Band.
Ah, the Bones Band. I had been hanging out with Johnny, who had this show called the Downtown Altoona Players. And what he liked to do is feature a band for each show. So he used to drag me out to see local bands. The best local band we ever saw was Bones Band. Now, turns out this is a guy that he knew, this guy called Al DiGiacomo, and some of the other people he knew growing up in Saddlebrook. And these guys were tight. They had this phenomenal lead guitarist, Sal Riggi, and just played kick-ass, nice bar band music. And I was delighted years ago to end up working with this Al DiGiacomo on another venture of our own.
We're all like an atom, and we all have that outer shell of an electron, okay, that we all are kept in place until we see something that we are either repelled by or attracted to, okay? So sometimes you look at someone and you're like, go away, and then there are just some people that as soon as you see them, you know it's it, and we're gonna be able to do something together, okay? And I just think that you have the way that you make a lot of connections. That outer electron for you is a force that when you are in with another group of people, it's like you can sense their talent. And again, you could be in a whole group of people, and while you're doing this, your little electron force is looking, and all of a sudden, boom, you just hook up with people because you and Johnny Stevens, boom, I'd have never seen that coming. But he was apparently a very talented person, and you just met up with him, and it was just, it's like that. It's like all of a sudden there's this little bond between you. So.
John invites us to the UA Columbia Studios in Clifton to tape our original songs, Everybody's Welcome, and Hollywood Election Day.
We're pushing 35 years ago when the Downtown Altoona Players first got on Access TV. I guess we started because Jack Bachner and I, we read an article in a local pub. Hey, I'm not following Bachner on this thing, am I? Well, you know what? That's a good way to look good. All right, never mind. I can follow Bachner. But Bachner and I, one of us saw in a local newspaper something about public access TV stations when UA Columbia came in as the cable provider in the North Jersey area. And basically, people could come on and do their own show. And so we thought, hey, this is a great way to do some comedy, and we could have our own show. And that's how we got started with it.
Controlled Chaos. What I remember most, what I enjoyed most about their shtick, both in real life and on stage, is their ability to creatively insult each other. It's just delightful. When they grew up together, they clearly developed some camaraderie, and it was nice being able to watch them banter back and forth.
Original music wasn't being done on TV, except for Saturday Night Live or something, and that was big bands. They went out and tried to find the best of the local bands they could find, different ones, original music. And Bones Band was one of the best. And the crazy thing with that is, I just got tapes a few years back when you and Brian put together those DVDs of the original shows, and I'm playing them to my kids who weren't even born 15 years before Downtown Altoona Players went off the air. And my daughter just zoomed right in on the Bones Band. She said, "That's the one." She said, "They could do it today."
The way you know
This place was fabulous. Seeing 3 cameras, control room equipment, hot bright lights, to me said action. Ever since those storytelling days with Alan Jasper, I wanted to learn on how to work in film or video, but the cost and equipment in those days was impossibly expensive. I think in pictures, and I was waiting for someone like John to show me the ropes in the entire television production process. John soon picked up that I'd do virtually anything to hang with them in the studio.
Here's something that Al's asked me about many times, whether I thought my what I was doing would influence so many people. I guess I still can't see it. I understand that, you know, Al got very interested in doing videos and his own television show after working with the Downtown Altoona Players. But I gotta believe that that's something the guy would have done whether or not I ever had anything to do with the Downtown Altoona Players. So it's hard for me to see that I influenced people, I guess, in a positive way. But if they tell me that I did, well, that's a huge compliment, and I really appreciate it. But that's a tough one for me to see.
I saw Billy Crystal in the middle of shooting a scene, and this movie was great. And everybody that wrote about it hated it, and it was a flop at the box office. And I knew as an artist what he put into this picture, years of his life, and he directed it. And it was dismissed, and it was gone in one day. So when he had a break, I walked up to him and I said, "Billy, I'm Pat from the Smithereens. You probably haven't heard of us." I said, "I want to tell you," I said, "Mr. Saturday Night is a great motion picture." I said, "Thank you for creating that and giving it to all of us." I said, "You did great." And he stepped out of character and he hugged me and he said, thank you. And it was meaningful. So on that level, you know, I felt comfortable saying that to him. But when someone says that your work has had an effect on me, I really, really do appreciate it, but I don't know how to react to it in a way. Apart from giving somebody a hug and a kiss, you know, it's like, what can you do? But it's never enough. People want more, you know, because they've been listening to what we do for years and years and years, decades, and I've only got that minute with them, you know, and it's never quite enough.
I do know, well, Al was hanging around the studio a lot when we were shooting. And, you know, eventually I wrote him into one of the episodes to play a character. Like I was saying earlier, you know, we all want to believe we can do other things. Comedians want to be rock stars want to be comedians and actors. So the character's name, I always had such serious names for characters, was Skinch Barboza. And so he was going to play this gangster type. And so we shot the footage, and, you know, as I mean, as a comedian, as an actor, for Al, Al was a great singer. Yeah, he really was. Great musician. But the stuff aired, and it was a lot of fun working with Al as a comedian.
Hey, you with the gun.
Yeah, what do you want, copper?
How about a smoke?
Gee, I don't know about that. Can I give him a smoke, Skinch?
That's what I love about you, Meyer, a man who can think on his feet.
That mean yes?
Give him a cigarette.
Here you go, Mac.
Thanks. Gee, I never thought we'd get into this kind of trouble here at 74 River Street.
Hey, you just redeemed yourself, Wiley.
Kelly Boa from Stagger. My goodness, how can I describe Kelly Boa from Stagger? When I think of her, here's what comes to mind. I used to sit in on some of the video editing sessions because, of course, all of this raw footage we'd come up with would have to be edited. And I remember there were two of the techs that were doing the editing for us from the Stagger songs. And when you're doing the editing, you pause and you cut a couple of shots together, of course. And I remember one of the techs, after several pauses, we were only several minutes into the editing session, he just turned to me and said, "My God, any random freeze frame of her could be a poster that would sell like 1 million copies." And the guy was right. You know, I hate to just focus on Kelly's looks, but I mean, she was a beautiful girl, and I'm sure she still is. I just haven't seen Kelly in many years. But aside from that, I mean, she could flat out sing, and she had an electricity and an energy to her. So you had somebody that, and Kelly was a great singer. She was a fantastic looking person, and she had this electric stage personality. I mean, you couldn't get better than that.
Gotta tell you, listen to me, please believe in what I'm saying. We'll take the world. Someday you'll see. Sooner that will be coming. Get it ready, get it ready. Close your eyes and dream with me. Have some fun now, baby. Fun with me, yeah. Have some fun now, people. Fun so easily. Have some fun now, lovers. Now's the time, yeah. Have some fun now, darling. Soon you'll be mine. Raise a question and an answer. Can you help me give solutions? Can you please respond to me? Let's hit the town and fool around. Without a sound, will not be found just for the night, babe. Then you'll see. To have some fun, we need no one. Distract yourself, we'll be enough for our world. There's only you. Wait for the day, 'cause all it's safe for you and me. We both agree that time is right to show them all. Have some fun now, baby. Fun with me, yeah. Have some fun now, people. Run so easily. Have some fun now, lovers. Now's the time, yeah. Have some fun now, darling. Soon you'll be mine. I'm in love with a cold-hearted guy now. Can't you see that he's driving me mad? Twisted touch, sleepless nights are the symptom. Not a wonderful feeling to have. Left alone, I don't know what to do. Being in love's a tortured feeling. Don't let it happen to you. Don't let it happen to you. Don't let it happen to you. It's all too much. It's all I can do. I'm all mixed up, thinking of you. It's all too much. It's all I can do. I'm all mixed up, thinking of you. Try so hard to be a pleasing person. Always there when the going gets rough. But it never really seems to matter. You rarely get a chance to show your stuff.
They were a great group, the Altoona Players. Never liked one of them, but no, they were my best friends, and I still see them from time to time at the cemetery. And they were a great bunch. I must say that my good friend Johnny, my then partner, almost burnt down the studio, but that was good too. We were in the editing room, and he decides to, that was back when he could smoke in an editing room, and we all did it, but we would go outside to throw away the butts. Johnny just went waste paper basket. Flames! Oh, jeez, and they run right out the door. But they were great. No, they were a really great bunch of guys, and it's a shame that we really didn't get to fulfill what we really wanted to. wasn't able to pan out for as long as we wanted to. Again, with a band, there were inner, confrontations and arguments and stuff like that. But in the long run, it was a really good haul. It really was. And I look back on it, and it sucked. But no, it was really great. It was a fantastic experience, and I would do it again. I would do it again. Not with them, but I'd do it again.
This is where I meet Brian Wood, Dave Cooper, who married Maureen, a girl I went with in elementary school. Cooper, Jack Bachner, along with John's dad and Alan Roberts, had worked for years on stage together.
May have been 8 state, I'd say. Another drink, madam?
Yes.
I found learning television was just as fascinating as recording music, and putting both together would inevitably meet with interesting results. After the spring of 1981, things were getting wired and restless, with Andy deciding to leave the Bones Band. After a good 6 months off from each other, Andy lands a gig with a guitar player named Robbie Watson from Liverpool, England.
Well, we had the Speedometers when we were signed to Arista. We had a producer, Mickey Dallin, and Mickey had come to America to meet a bunch of American, people in the music business, and he went to meet a guy called Robert James, and he thought it was Bob James who did the music for things like Hill Street Blues. So he meets this guy in New York, and it turns out it's Jim Giantonio, as you know, and Jim and Bob Cacciadorian had a business booking agency, a music company called Robert James, and that was their company. So, not to be deterred, Mickey stayed in touch, and I eventually, when we needed representation in the US, we went with Jim. And then shortly after the band, I left the band. I wanted to leave and get out of there, and I called him and I said, I want to come to the US, and he said, get a ticket and get on a plane. And basically, that was it. July 1st, 81, I came to America.
Robbie looked a lot like Graham Parker from The Rumor, a popular English band of the late 70s.
I don't really get confused, mistaken for Graham Parker like I did in the previous years. It's as we've got older, we retained our own, developed our own identities. But I've shown my wife's Sherry has seen some of the footage of Parker live, like doing Hold Down the Night, and she goes, "My God, it moved everything. It's a ringer for you." And the big problem with Parker was I had a deal pending in New York. And the top A&R guy in the end said to me, there's a problem here. And he said, you look like Graham Parker and you sound like Graham Parker to an extent. He said, but not copying him. He said, but the problem is he can't sell any bloody records either.
We were good. We really were good. And I think that was one of the things that frustrated me, and that's why that band broke up, because Sal didn't want to move to the next step, man. Sal was always happy being a big fish in a little pond, and I wanted to be a little fish in a big pond. And I knew we could. And that's why as soon as I got the opportunity to bring these guys in with Robbie, I did, because I always felt that, oh my God, if you had actually sound system and a road crew, and if you do it, and you do it true to yourself, and not try and be somebody else, you'll make your own crowd. You build it, they'll come.
I was, obviously familiar with who you were before I met you, because Andy was, Bones Band meant an awful lot to Andy, and probably still does, I'm sure, all of you. And it was a reference that, in a way to me, to say, hey, I've been doing this, and I had a really good band. And then, I met you, and I like you because you are definitely quirky, which appeals to me in people. You're different, you're definitely your own guy. And when you let me use the studio and come down there, I was impressed, because I've been doing the same thing in London, although I did it in a little bedroom, and I had only had a 2-track. I was bouncing stuff. I bought a 2-track at a junk shop, a Sony, but I could do sound on sound, and multi-track, and do demos. And I kind of got that idea from Pete Townsend. And so when I come over, you got a bit more of an elaborate. You had a 4-track TEAC. Actually, I eventually bought one of those in New York after that had influenced me after using yours, seeing you using it. I had built a studio in my apartment in New York, and then was recording on that. Anyway, yeah, I liked it. It was great. You could go down to your place and have a few beers, and it was a musicians kind of not hangout, but it was a hangout because you had other friends there at times, and I went down a few times, and yeah, I thought it was great.
They were putting this band together, and as usual, Andy needed to borrow my PA. Robbie was a leather-clad London rocker, and we all got on pretty much okay. The Speedometers also did an appearance on the Downtown Altoona Players.
And now, Robbie Watson's Speedometers.
I wish you were here.
Robbie Watson was a terrific songwriter, a terrific singer, and a terrific performer. Although I didn't get to see it, I remember that around that time, he and the Speedometers actually opened up for Cheap Trick, Cheap Trick was a big act in the 80s. And so having Robbie come in, it was just awesome. Absolutely awesome. And the guy is a terrific performer. And if I had the chance to see him again today, standing up in front of a microphone and knocking a few songs out, I'd love to do it. The guy was great.
That was great because it was TV, man. I'm here from England, and we've basically got 3 channels, and here I am. I can be on TV. I don't care if it's what they call cable access or what. And the people, I remember not vividly. I remember that the guys where we did it were really nice, and everybody's really kind of fun to be around. My daughter in England. She was commenting to me the other day that she'd finally seen it, and she just thought, her and her boyfriend just thought it was amazing. It was there was their dad on this TV show. So if there's nothing else, that is the greatest thing for me, is that my daughter got to see me 20 years later, in my prime, so to speak, on this show, and that really means a lot. So I've got to thank you and the Altoona Players for that privilege of doing that.
Well, when we had Robbie Watson and the Speedometers come in, that to me was a trip, because it was like this, right. I had never met a band like that in my life. I've heard them, seen them on TV, seen clips of the Entwistle and all those other guys, the Beatles, but I never met one in real life. But all you do is Jack. Oh, that's like this guy. He's for me. It was just an incredible, different take on the other kind of bands we did. Most of them, garage bands. Good, good, bad, different, different, that we would see and go. But this was like 1/3 of the Who walked into the studio. So that was like an amazing trip for me. That guy. It was like so. I wanted to take him home. Just put him on my mantelpiece and say, just talk. Right.
When Robbie met Andy, the musical side of New York City opened up to me, and it also showed me the sleazy side of the entertainment world up front and close.
Al's like Mr. Energy, Mr. Excitement, zany, funny, unpredictable to a point. Always remember the black when he had the black corkscrew hair until he got the new outfit. That always amazed me. Just definitely, you know, one of those kind of mad scientisty kind of guys. But you know, obviously, I was so pleased when I saw the band, your band, the 18-string band, because it was just so nice to see you had this thing together and you guys are playing, and you know, our age, I still play and occasionally I'm doing gigs. Yeah, it's and you're very generous. Let me say that. Like, you let me come into the studio. You're very generous and open, and I really respected that, and I still to this day do.
Sal was one of those really special guys. I remember a time, gosh, I can't remember the club, but it could have been New York or New Jersey, when, of course, he played lead in the Speedometers, and Robbie was the front man playing rhythm. Robbie's guitar went out, and so in the middle of a song, I mean, it just went out. And so within a few seconds or so, you know, Sal realized this, and he simply started playing both parts, rhythm and lead, like at the same time, or somehow he made it seem like that. And all I remember is when Robbie realized that Sal was playing both parts, he kind of did one of these. And he just sort of stared over. And I think that was a moment for Robbie where he realized, hey, I always knew this guy could play. Well, who the heck knew he was capable of something like this?